What if I told you that the man who wore this badge, a man sworn to protect, to serve, to uphold the law, was hiding a secret so dark, so unimaginable, that it would shatter the trust of an entire community? This is the story of Sheriff Williams James, a man who stood as a pillar of justice in the small town of Willow Creek, Texas. But beneath the surface of his polished reputation lay a truth so horrifying, it would leave a permanent scar on everyone who knew him. This is the story of his 16-year-old niece, Olivia James, a bright, innocent girl whose life was tragically cut short. A story of betrayal, manipulation, and a crime so heinous, it defies comprehension. What began as a family arrangement would unravel into a nightmare of pregnancy, kidnapping, and a murder so brutal, it would haunt the town for decades. Stay with me, because this is not just a story. This is a warning. And by the end, you'll understand why some secrets are never meant to stay buried. Before we uncover the truth, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after this video ends. Olivia James was just 16 years old when she moved into her uncle's home in Willow Creek, Texas. Her parents had been struggling financially, and Williams James, the town's respected sheriff, had offered to take her in. At first, it seemed like a fresh start. Olivia was given her own room in the spacious James home, enrolled in the local high school, and quickly became a part of the community. She made friends, joined the cheerleading team, and for a while, it seemed like her life was finally on track. But behind closed doors, something was terribly wrong. It started with small gestures, a hand on her shoulder that lingered a little too long, a comment about how much she'd grown, how beautiful she'd become. Olivia, young and naive, didn't know how to respond. She trusted her uncle, looked up to him. He was the town sheriff, after all, a man everyone admired. He was the kind of person who would help you change a flat tire in the rain, who would sit with you at the diner and listen to your problems over a cup of coffee. To Olivia, he was more than an uncle, he was a hero. But as the weeks went by, Williams's behavior became more overt. He would come into her room late at night, claiming he was just checking on her. He would insist on driving her to school, even when she said she could walk. He would isolate her from her friends, telling her they were a bad influence. Olivia felt trapped, but she didn't know how to escape. She was just a teenager, and the man she had trusted, the man who was supposed to protect her, was slowly revealing a darker side. Then, one night, everything changed. Williams came into her room, as he often did, but this time, he didn't leave. Olivia, terrified and confused, didn't know what to do. She was just a child, and the man she had trusted, the man who was supposed to protect her, had betrayed her in the worst possible way. The abuse continued for months, hidden behind the walls of the James home. Olivia felt like she had no one to turn to. She was too scared to tell her parents, too ashamed to tell her friends. She felt completely alone, trapped in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. And then, she discovered she was pregnant. The news shattered Olivia. She was just a teenager, with her whole life ahead of her, and now she was carrying her uncle's child. She confronted Williams, begging him to let her leave, to let her go back to her parents. But Williams wasn't about to let his secret get out. He told her no one would believe her, that she would ruin her family's reputation, that she would be the one blamed for what had happened. Olivia felt trapped, with no way out. And then, one night, she vanished. When Olivia's parents reported her missing, the town of Willow Creek was in shock. Posters with her face were plastered on every street corner, and search parties combed the surrounding woods. But no one could have imagined the truth: Olivia hadn't run away. She had been taken. Williams James, desperate to keep his secret hidden, had kidnapped his own niece. He drove her to a remote cabin deep in the woods, a place no one would think to look. The cabin was old and dilapidated, its windows boarded up, its door creaking on rusty hinges. Inside, there was only a single bed, a table, and a chair. Olivia was left there, alone and terrified, with no way to contact the outside world. For weeks, Olivia was held captive, cut off from everything and everyone she knew. Williams would visit her occasionally, bringing food and supplies, but mostly, she was alone. The days blurred together, and Olivia's hope began to fade. She was pregnant, scared, and completely isolated. But even in her darkest moments, she refused to give up. She knew she had to find a way to escape, not just for herself, but for her unborn child. One night, as Williams was leaving the cabin, Olivia made her move. She waited until she heard his car drive away, then tried to force open the door. But it was locked from the outside. She searched the cabin for anything she could use to break free, but there was nothing. The windows were boarded up, the walls were solid, and the only way out was through the door. Olivia felt a wave of despair wash over her. She was trapped, with no way to escape. And then, she heard a noise outside. What happened next is still shrouded in mystery. According to the official police report, Williams James returned to the cabin that night and found Olivia trying to escape. In a fit of rage, he attacked her, stabbing her multiple times before leaving her lifeless body on the cabin floor. But some believe there's more to the story. Olivia's diary, found hidden under the floorboards of the cabin, revealed that she had been planning her escape for weeks. She had written about her fear of Williams, her desperation to protect her unborn child, and her hope that someone would find her before it was too late. The diary also contained chilling details about Williams's behavior, how he had threatened her, manipulated her, and made her feel like she had no way out. When investigators finally pieced together the evidence, they uncovered a web of lies, betrayal, and unspeakable violence. Williams James, the man who had sworn to protect and serve, had committed the ultimate betrayal. But the story doesn't end there. As the investigation continued, more secrets came to light, secrets that would shake the town of Willow Creek to its core. Williams had been planning to flee the country with Olivia's unborn child. He had forged documents, purchased plane tickets, and even rented a house in another country. But why? What was he planning to do with the child? And what other secrets was he hiding? The answers to these questions would reveal a side of Williams James that no one in Willow Creek could have ever imagined. When Olivia James's disappearance was first reported, the small town of Willow Creek, Texas, was thrown into a state of panic and disbelief. Olivia was a bright, cheerful teenager, well-liked by her peers and teachers, and her sudden vanishing seemed inexplicable. Her parents, desperate for answers, pleaded with the community for help. Flyers with her face were posted on every street corner, and search parties combed the surrounding woods, fields, and rivers. The local news stations ran constant updates, and the story began to gain traction beyond Willow Creek, drawing attention from neighboring towns and even state authorities. But as the days turned into weeks, the initial urgency began to fade. No credible leads had emerged, and the case grew colder with each passing day. The community, once united in their search, began to lose hope. Some speculated that Olivia had run away, while others whispered about the possibility of foul play. But no one could have imagined the truth, that the man leading the search for Olivia, Sheriff Williams James, was the very person responsible for her disappearance. Then, a breakthrough came. A hiker exploring the dense woods near Willow Creek stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. The cabin was hidden deep in the forest, far from any trails or roads, and its windows were boarded up, its door secured with a heavy padlock. The hiker, curious and concerned, peered through a crack in the boards and saw what appeared to be bloodstains on the floor. He immediately contacted the authorities. When investigators arrived, they forced their way into the cabin and discovered a scene that would haunt them for years to come. The interior was sparse, a single bed, a table, and a chair, but the walls and floor were marked with bloodstains. Personal items belonging to Olivia were scattered throughout the cabin, including a hairbrush, a pair of shoes, and a torn piece of clothing. The discovery sent shockwaves through Willow Creek. The cabin was quickly traced back to Williams James, who had purchased it years ago under a fake name. Investigators descended on the cabin, collecting evidence and piecing together what had happened. They found Olivia's diary hidden under the floorboards, its pages filled with her handwritten accounts of the abuse she had endured at the hands of her uncle. The diary revealed that Williams had been grooming Olivia for months, manipulating her trust and isolating her from her friends and family. It also detailed her growing fear of him and her desperate attempts to escape. The diary became a crucial piece of evidence in the case, providing a chilling glimpse into Olivia's final days. Investigators also found bloodstains on the walls and floor of the cabin, which were later matched to Olivia through DNA testing. The evidence painted a grim picture. Olivia had been held captive in the cabin for weeks before her death. As the investigation continued, more disturbing details came to light. Phone records showed that Williams had been in contact with a private adoption agency, and investigators discovered that he had forged documents to make it appear as though Olivia had willingly given up her unborn child for adoption. He had even purchased plane tickets and rented a house in another country, where he planned to start a new life with the child. With the evidence mounting against him, Williams James was arrested and charged with kidnapping, assault, and murder. The arrest sent shockwaves through Willow Creek, where Williams had been a respected figure for over a decade. Many in the community refused to believe the allegations, insisting that there must be some mistake. Williams was, after all, the town sheriff, a man who had dedicated his life to serving and protecting others. But as the trial began, the truth became impossible to ignore. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, including Olivia's diary, the bloodstains found in the cabin, and the forged adoption documents. Witnesses testified about Williams's increasingly erratic behavior in the months leading up to Olivia's disappearance, and experts explained how the evidence pointed to his guilt. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was the testimony of a forensic expert, who explained that the bloodstains in the cabin were consistent with a violent struggle. The expert also testified that the blood spatter patterns indicated that Olivia had been attacked multiple times before her death. Williams's defense team argued that he had been framed, but their arguments fell flat in the face of the overwhelming evidence. The jury deliberated for less than a day before returning a guilty verdict on all charges. Williams James was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial may have been over, but the story was far from finished. In the months following Williams's conviction, more secrets came to light. Investigators discovered that Williams had been involved in other illegal activities, including embezzlement and bribery. They also found evidence that he had been grooming other young girls in the community, though none of them had come forward out of fear. Olivia's family, devastated by her loss, filed a civil lawsuit against Williams, seeking justice for their daughter. The lawsuit brought even more attention to the case, and the media coverage sparked a national conversation about the abuse of power and the need for stronger protections for vulnerable individuals. In the end, Olivia's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most polished facade. Her memory lives on in the hearts of those who loved her, and her story serves as a warning to others to be vigilant, to speak out, and to never take trust for granted. The trial of Williams James was not just a legal proceeding, it was a deeply emotional ordeal that gripped the entire town of Willow Creek and beyond. For Olivia's family, it was a harrowing journey through grief, anger, and the desperate search for justice. Every day, they sat in the courtroom, forced to relive the horror of Olivia's disappearance and death through the graphic testimony and evidence presented. Olivia's mother, Sarah James, was the first to take the stand. Her voice trembled as she described the last time she saw her daughter, a bright, smiling teenager full of dreams and potential. "Olivia was my everything," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "She was kind, she was smart, and she had her whole life ahead of her. And he took that from her. He took her from us." Olivia's father, Michael James, followed, his voice steady but filled with barely contained rage. "Williams James was supposed to protect us," he said, his eyes locked on the man who had once been his brother-in-law. "He was supposed to be a man of honor, a man of the law. But he betrayed us. He betrayed Olivia. And he destroyed our family." The prosecution's case was built on a foundation of irrefutable evidence. Olivia's diary, with its heartbreaking entries detailing her fear and desperation, was read aloud in court. The bloodstains found in the cabin, the DNA evidence linking Williams to the crime, and the forged adoption documents all painted a damning picture of a man who had abused his power and betrayed the trust of his community. Williams James, once a towering figure of authority, sat silently throughout the trial, his face expressionless. His defense team attempted to cast doubt on the evidence, suggesting that Olivia had run away and that someone else had committed the crime. But their arguments were weak and unconvincing, and the jury saw through them. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: Williams James was guilty of kidnapping, assault, and murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions: relief, anger, and sorrow. Olivia's family wept openly, their grief mingled with a sense of justice finally being served. During the sentencing phase, the judge allowed Olivia's family to deliver victim impact statements. Sarah James spoke first, her voice trembling with emotion as she described the void left in their lives by Olivia's death. "She was our light, our joy," she said. "And he took that from us. He took everything." Michael James followed, his voice steady but filled with rage. "Williams James was supposed to protect us," he said. "Instead, he destroyed our family. He took our daughter, our granddaughter, and he left us with nothing but pain." When it was Williams's turn to speak, he remained silent, offering no apology or explanation for his actions. The judge, visibly moved by the family's statements, sentenced Williams to life in prison without the possibility of parole. "You have betrayed the trust of this community," the judge said. "And you have shown no remorse for your actions. May you spend the rest of your life reflecting on the pain you have caused." The trial may have ended, but its impact reverberated throughout Willow Creek and beyond. The case exposed deep flaws in the system, from the lack of oversight for law enforcement officials to the failure to protect vulnerable individuals like Olivia. In the months following the trial, the community came together to demand change, pushing for stricter regulations and greater accountability for those in positions of power. Olivia's family, determined to honor her memory, established a foundation in her name. The Olivia James Foundation provides support and resources for victims of abuse and works to raise awareness about the signs of grooming and manipulation. Through their efforts, Olivia's story has become a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, there is strength in speaking out and seeking justice. As for Williams James, he remains in prison, serving his life sentence. But his crimes continue to haunt those who knew him. The once respected sheriff is now a symbol of betrayal and corruption, a cautionary tale of how power can be abused and trust can be shattered. Olivia's story, though tragic, has left an indelible mark on the world. Her courage, even in the face of unimaginable fear, serves as an inspiration to others. And her memory lives on, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the light of justice will always prevail. As the trial concluded and the headlines faded, the story of Olivia James did not simply disappear. Instead, it became a catalyst for change, a rallying cry for justice, and a stark reminder of the fragility of trust. Olivia's life, though tragically cut short, left an indelible mark on the world. Her courage in the face of unimaginable fear, her determination to protect her unborn child, and her unwavering hope for a better future continue to inspire those who hear her story. Olivia's family, though forever scarred by her loss, found solace in the knowledge that her story had sparked a movement. The Olivia James Foundation, established in her memory, has become a beacon of hope for victims of abuse and exploitation. Through education, advocacy, and support, the foundation works tirelessly to ensure that no one else suffers the way Olivia did. Her parents, Sarah and Michael James, have become vocal advocates for victims' rights, using their platform to push for systemic change and greater accountability. But Olivia's story is not just about tragedy, it's also about resilience. It's about the strength of a community that came together to demand justice, the courage of those who spoke out against abuse, and the power of one young girl's voice to inspire change. Her legacy lives on in the countless lives touched by her story, and in the hope that her death was not in vain. Olivia's story is a reminder that we all have a role to play in protecting the vulnerable and holding those in power accountable. It's a call to action for each of us to be vigilant, to speak out against injustice, and to support those who cannot fight for themselves. If this story has moved you, if it has made you think, or if it has inspired you to take action, then I urge you to do something today. Share this video with someone who needs to hear Olivia's story. Talk to your friends and family about the importance of recognizing the signs of abuse and exploitation. And if you or someone you know is in need of help, reach out to organizations like the Olivia James Foundation, which provide resources and support for victims of abuse. As we close this chapter, I want to leave you with one final thought. Olivia's story is a reminder that evil often hides in plain sight, but it's also a testament to the power of truth, justice, and the human spirit. No matter how dark the night, the light of justice will always prevail. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being a part of this journey. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. And as always, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop fighting for what's right.